But all of these potatoes came from one seed potato that was about the size of a golf ball or slightly larger. And so I'm inclined to save ones that are around that size, mainly because they just take up less room. I've got so much storage space where I can store potatoes. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I was just out picking some potatoes here on an evening after work. And I got to thinking about a comment that a viewer recently made about one of my videos. I was talking about saving seed potatoes, and I mentioned that I tend to put the ones about this big in I basically dry them out a bit and put them in a brown paper bag and save them for seed potatoes for the next year. This size, or from this size down to golf ball. And this would be, looks big on the screen here, but relative to my hand you can see it's slightly larger than a golf ball. So basically anything around golf ball size, I like to save that for seed potato. And so the person commented, I mean, this isn't unique to this person, so I'm not picking on anybody. I've heard this lots of times, and what the person was saying was something I've heard gardening gurus say as well. That if you pick the big ones, if you keep the big ones and use them as seed potatoes, you'll get big potatoes. And I can see the reasoning and the logic behind that. But, you know, so all the potatoes you see in front of you here. So here's a bit of a haul, right? So I got, what do I got here? This is all from one plant. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 potatoes. As long as you're getting near 10 potatoes per plant, you know, you're hitting it good. And they range in size where I got 3 about this big. This is about as, you know, basically like a roasted potato like you get in a fancy restaurant, right? It's a good size. And I got 3, you know, sort of, still a good size, right? Still big. And then I got a couple little ones, right? But all of these potatoes came from one seed potato that was about the size of a golf ball or slightly larger. And so I'm inclined to save ones that are around that size, mainly because they just take up less room. I've got so much storage space where I can store potatoes to eat, and also, I mean, the ones you store to eat and the ones you store for seed the next year, you basically need the same conditions to store them, the same dark, cooler sort of temperature. So I only got so much room, and I grew these for food. And you know, I can put a whole bunch of these, you know, a pound of these is a lot of potatoes. Now, to speak to my reasoning, why did I get so much potatoes out of this? These little ones and these big ones, if I plant them, I'm planting the same thing, because these are all clones, right? The original potato that I planted here, it was just probably a small potato that came off a plant with large potatoes, just like this one, right? Both these potatoes came from the same seed potato, the same specific, not just the same bag of seed potatoes, these both came from the same specific seed potato, one about this size. That's because when you save seed potatoes, right, as opposed to, like, you know, letting the potato go to seed, and you know, it's a whole different sort of ball of wax, starting potatoes actually from seed. But what we're calling seed potatoes here are just the tubers that the potato puts out, saving those and planting them in the ground again. This is a clone, not made in some mad scientist laboratory. Potatoes, there are things in nature that clone themselves. Potatoes clone themselves. So this and this are both clones of the same thing. So regardless of the size of the seed potato, they're both clones of the same thing, so they're both capable of achieving good results. The number of potatoes you get and the size of those potatoes are going to be a function of the amount of light, the quality of the soil, the availability of moisture. The potato gets the moisture it needs when it wants it, in the amount it wants, right? And also, to an extent, the number of eyes on the potato. You'll read a lot of treatises or you know, instructional works talking about seed potatoes, saving them, and they'll say put ones like this in whole, and it's like take ones like this and cut them up. So of course, if you, right, it's the number of eyes that come off of the seed potato that's going to, you know, sort of to a certain extent, the number of eyes, that can come out of this is going to determine how many potatoes you can get off a plant. So conceivably, a large potato like this would put out more eyes than a small potato like this. So conceivably, this would give you more potatoes per plant than this. There's no reason the one would produce larger potatoes than another. You know, every year I get in different places in my garden volunteer potatoes, and I'm inclined to just let them go and see what happens. And you know, usually you've got a volunteer potato because when you're digging potatoes you missed one, and usually the ones you missed are like the size of a gumball or smaller. They're teeny tiny ones that you didn't notice. And I've had volunteers produce massive potatoes sometimes, possibly because there was only one eye. You know, if there's only one eye, basically that maybe there's only one potato, it's getting everything, who knows. Yeah, if you put a big one in, you're probably going to get more eyes and more shoots and probably going to get more potatoes. But in terms of genetic information that's passed on from one plant to the other, they're both clones of the same thing. So they both have the potential to produce a range of sizes, just like both of these came from the same potato, right? So that's why I think it's, you know, it's not necessarily the case. And I've tried this too. I have saved all my biggest potatoes and planted them, and I haven't really noticed much of a difference. I haven't noticed these amazing results in terms of size, right? So it's just a lot easier to put the small ones in a bag. Yes, you can eat the small ones, but there's a size past which they're just a pain to clean. It's a lot easier to deal with the larger ones, and I'm not saying the small ones aren't good, and don't get offended by that. It's just the big ones are easier to deal with in lots of different ways. Also, I've not really, you know, when I read comments like that, I'm inclined to go look into literature on that. And I can't seem to find anything written anywhere that suggests that saving a whole potato, a big potato, and planting it is going to guarantee you big potatoes. If anything, most of the traditional stuff you read when they're saying a potato's big, they say to cut it up. I wouldn't necessarily do that, but that's what they're saying to do. Rather than cut up a big potato, I would just take all the little ones and put them aside and use them as seed potatoes. It seems a lot easier. I mean, I can count just on this one side of the potato, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's about 9 eyes on the sort of top side. I guess if I planted this, I'm probably going to get 9 potatoes off of this thing. And they're going to be big if the roots that come out of this potato get all the resources they need to make me big potatoes, right? That's what's determining it. I couldn't seem to find any resources online from university extensions and that sort of resource, official type resources, that would suggest that there is a relationship between the size of the seed potato and the size of the resulting potato. So just my 2 cents worth on that if you're contemplating that. And the only reason I'm doing this video is because people, you listen to a guru talk and they'll say something and you're inclined to believe everything they say. And like I did, you trust these people. And I honestly don't think many of these people are trying to deceive anyone. They just have such great success with their garden. They probably just think whatever they think is right. It's very possible. But it's good to, if you have an idea about something, it's good to consult with experts and people that study these things in a scientific way. I can't see, number one, I tried to plant the big potatoes just to get the great results. I didn't notice any difference from planting ones this size. Number two, I can't seem to find anywhere where it suggests, based on repeated trial studies, that makes any difference. And in my own sort of crude research here, using my good soil, my good conditions, and where I live, Nova Scotia is a good place for growing potatoes. It's cool, right? You want the ground has to be reasonably cool for a lot of different varieties of potatoes. They kind of like the conditions here, wet and cool. Not a lot of things like those conditions, but potatoes like it. So anyway, just my 2 cents worth on that. It's useful to know because if you're storing, potatoes, I think you're going to do a lot better in terms of the logistics and what you're getting, out of your crop. Right? It wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to put all these ones in storage for seed and eat all of these. I just by that one move, in terms of the yield that's food for me, I'd be reducing the yield by, well, I don't know, some incredible amount, right? I'd be eating maybe 25% of my yield, where I'd rather eat 80% and put aside 20% for seed. That makes sense to me. So I hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it. Have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.